For the last several years, we have been told a simple story, a story of American strength, a story that said America first. We were told that the instrument of this strength was a weapon, the tariff. We saw it deployed against adversaries and allies alike. A 25% tax on steel, a 10% tax on aluminum, the threat of new taxes on cars, on lumber, on everything. We were told this weapon was aimed outward. It was designed to punish our competitors. It was designed to protect our jobs. It was designed to force the world to respect us. But what happens when the weapon isn't a bullet? What happens when the weapon is a boomerang? You throw it, and for a moment, it flies straight and true. You feel the power of its release, but then, far out in the distance, it stops, it turns, and it begins its journey back, picking up speed, aimed not at the target, but at the thrower. Tonight, that boomerang has just made its turn. The click you just heard, that was a press conference in Ottawa, Canada. What was announced by Prime Minister Mark Carney was not just a budget. It was a declaration that the boomerang is coming home. We have just been fired. We have just been let go by our single biggest customer. And the message we are here to deliver tonight is a dire warning to every single American in the Farm Belt, in the Rust Belt, and in every town that depends on sending goods to the rest of the world. The America First policy has just officially and catastrophically backfired. And the economic pain that is about to hit home is exactly what our leaders promised would never happen. The trigger. Why Canada pulled the trigger. For this story to make sense, you have to first ask the most important question. Why? Why would Canada, our neighbor, our ally, our single largest trading partner, do this? Why would they declare, in no uncertain terms, that they are ending their economic dependence on the United States? The political pundits will tell you it's an attack. They will tell you it's a betrayal. They will frame Canada as the new enemy. That is a lie. It is the easy lie that avoids the hard truth. This was not an act of aggression. This was an act of desperation. This was a predictable, logical, and necessary response from a nation that has been Donvao backed into a corner by its only ally. For years, the Canadian economy has lived in a state of chaos, dictated by the unpredictability of Washington. Every morning, their leaders woke up wondering if a single tweet would wipe out their entire forestry industry. Every day, their factory workers in Ontario built cars, wondering if a 25% tariff would shut down their assembly line. Every hour, their diplomats were forced to walk on eggshells, trying to navigate a relationship that had turned from friendship into hostility. The United States, under the America First doctrine, treated Canada not as a partner, but as a vassal. We treated our number one customer like our number one enemy, and we expected them to just take it. We assumed their dependence was permanent. We assumed they had no other choice. That assumption was the single greatest geopolitical miscalculation of the 21st century. Because tonight, Canada just revealed their choice. They announced a Buy Canadian policy. They announced a $1 trillion infrastructure and housing plan. They announced a new economic model that is designed from the ground up to do one thing: cut America out of the loop. This is the trigger. This is the consequence. You cannot relentlessly punch your biggest customer in the face and then act surprised when they stop showing up to buy your products. And the tragedy is, the pain from this divorce will not be felt in Washington, D.C. It will be felt by you. It will be felt in the small towns, on the factory floors, and on the farms that built this country. The impact zone, the boomerang hits home. This is the part of the story that the mainstream media will not explain to you, because to do so, they would have to admit that the policies they covered have failed. We are going to show you exactly where the boomerang is scheduled to hit, and it is aimed at the heart of the American economy, the Rust Belt and the Farm Belt. Part 3A, the new lumber war. Let's start with the forestry industry. You heard the reporter in the original transcript. New Brunswick's forestry industry sells nearly 3/4 of its exports to the United States. Washington's tariffs threatened to kill that industry. So what did Canada do? Did they surrender? No. They adapted. They pivoted. Their new Buy Canadian policy means that their own new massive housing boom will use their own lumber first. But that's not the part that should scare you. The part that should scare you is where the rest of that lumber is going. As the Canadian Prime Minister said, they will diversify trade partners across the globe. This is the boomerang. For decades, the American lumber industry, based in states like Oregon and Washington, competed with Canada, but it was a managed competition. Now, because of America First, the logger in Oregon is about to face a new, desperate, and well-funded competitor. The boomerang isn't hitting you from the north. It's hitting you from the side. That logger in Oregon is no longer competing with the logger in New Brunswick for a contract in Ohio. They are now competing head-to-head in a life-or-death battle for a contract in Tokyo, or Seoul, or Berlin. America First didn't protect the American logger. It just unleashed a new global competitor. It has started a new lumber war, one we are set to lose, because we just forced our ally to become our enemy in every foreign market that matters. Part 3B, the steel belt's pain. But lumber is just the beginning. Let's talk about the Rust Belt. If you are watching this from Ohio, from Pennsylvania, from Michigan, you were told that the steel tariffs, the 25% tax, was for you. It was a shield meant to protect your job from foreign competition. And for a moment, it felt good. But it was a lie. Because while we were busy building a shield, Canada was building a sword. And their sword is called green steel. This is the silent tariff that is about to make American steel irrelevant. Here's how it works. Canada's new trillion-dollar infrastructure plan, the new rails, the new bridges, the new factories, will require millions of tons of steel. But the Buy Canadian policy has a hidden clause. The procurement rules, the rules for who gets the contracts, are being rewritten. They are adding a new standard, a low-carbon standard. Now, this sounds like a climate policy. It is not. It is an economic weapon, and it is aimed directly at the heart of the Rust Belt. You see, Canadian steel, particularly from producers like ArcelorMittal Dofasco in Ontario, is increasingly made using hydropower. It is green steel. It has a low carbon footprint. Much of the steel made in the Rust Belt is not. It is made with coal-fired plants. And just like that, with the stroke of a pen, the steel from your factory, the steel you were hired to make, the steel you were promised would be protected, is now disqualified. It is barred from the single largest new market in North America. Not by a tariff, but by a standard. America First promised to save the steel industry. It has just guaranteed that its biggest customer will never buy from it again. The boomerang is flying fast. Part 3C, the heart of the Farm Belt. But this is the one that is the most personal. This is the one that hurts the most. Let's talk about two companies, John Deere and Caterpillar. These are not just corporations. They are American icons. They are the lifeblood of the American heartland. If you are a farmer in Iowa, you know that green and yellow tractor. If you are a factory worker in Moline, Illinois, you are that tractor. If you are a builder in Peoria, that yellow machine is your entire life. For generations, the largest, most stable, and most profitable export market for John Deere and Caterpillar was Canada. The Canadian government, Canadian mining companies, and Canadian farmers bought billions of dollars worth of American-made heavy machinery every single year. That is now over. The Buy Canadian policy is not just about steel and lumber. It is about everything. When the Canadian government issues a new multi-billion-dollar contract for a high-speed rail line, when they fund a new lithium mine in Quebec, when they subsidize a new farming collective in Saskatchewan, the procurement rules will be rewritten. They will favor low-carbon machinery. They will favor machinery with right-to-repair laws that American companies have fought against. They will favor, quite simply, non-American machinery. And every single time a Canadian company buys a new piece of heavy equipment and they choose a new domestic Canadian brand, or a European brand, or a Japanese brand, over a John Deere or a Caterpillar, that is the boomerang hitting home. That is not just a lost sale for a CEO in Texas. That is a lost shift on the factory floor in Illinois. It is a lost bonus for a family in Iowa. It is a pink slip for a worker in Pennsylvania. A worker who was told, promised, that America First was for them. It was not. It was a slogan that has now cost them their single biggest customer. The contagion, the de-Americanization wave. Now, if this story was just about Canada, it would be a tragedy. But it is not. The tragedy is not just that Canada is doing this. The tragedy is that everyone else is watching. The tragedy is that Canada has just created the blueprint for the rest of the world to follow. They have proven that you can survive without America. They are the first domino, and the others are already starting to fall. Let's look south to Mexico, our second largest trading partner. For years, American farmers in the Farm Belt, in Iowa, in Nebraska, in Kansas, have held a dominant multi-billion-dollar monopoly, selling corn, GMO corn, to Mexico. What is happening right now? As we speak, the president of Mexico is pushing through a new law, a law to ban American GMO corn. He is actively and publicly seeking new corn suppliers from Brazil and from Argentina. Why? Because of America First. Because Washington weaponized trade, and Mexico learned the lesson. Never, ever be dependent on your ally. Let's look across the ocean to Europe. What is the new buzzword in Brussels, the capital of the European Union? Strategic autonomy. It is a fancy European way of saying, buy European. They are developing their own microchip industry, their own defense industry, their own energy grid. Why? Because they watched what happened to Canada. They watched as Washington tried to use its power to bully its allies. And they all of them, came to the same logical conclusion. The United States of America is no longer a reliable partner. This is the de-Americanization wave. This is the contagion. Washington, in its arrogance, taught the entire world a very expensive lesson. It taught the world, never, ever again be dependent on the United States. And the world is a very fast learner. The conclusion, the price of first. We come now to the central and most painful irony of this entire story. The America First policy was sold to the American people, to the farmers, to the workers, to the families in the Rust Belt, with one simple promise: it would bring jobs home. It would protect your livelihood. It would put you first. But it did not. It has done the exact opposite. It did not bring jobs home. It has just killed the highest paying, most stable export jobs that we had. It did not protect your livelihood. It has endangered it by forcing our best customers to become our fiercest competitors. By trying to win a trade war, we have lost the trade itself. We didn't just build a wall. We gave everyone else a reason to build their own. We have confused strength with isolation. We have confused arrogance with confidence. We, the American people, were promised a renaissance of American greatness. Instead, we have been handed a future of American loneliness. The policy was called America First. The result, the devastating, unintended, and irreversible result, is America alone. Resonance point and call to action. This is not a theoretical exercise. This is real. This is happening right now, and it will affect your family, your town, and your future. So I need to ask you, and I need you to be honest in the comments below, especially if you are watching this from the Farm Belt or the Rust Belt. Has the America First policy, has the trade war actually helped your community? Did it bring back the jobs? Or did it just feel good for a moment while our biggest customers quietly and logically planned their exit? Let me know the truth of what you are seeing on the ground. Because if you think the impact of the Rust Belt and the new lumber war is bad, you need to see the numbers, the hard numbers, coming out of the Farm Belt. The corn war with Mexico is just the beginning, and the billions of dollars that are about to disappear from the American heartland will be shocking. We are breaking down those exact numbers in our next investigation. Subscribe. Turn on your notifications. You cannot afford to miss this.